Hey friends, welcome back to Belle's Library. Today I want to talk to you guys about the idea of cozy reading. Lately I have seen some things on Instagram, here on BookTube, where influencers are talking about cozy as a trend and how it's time for it to go away. It's a trend that needs to die off. They're sick of cozy reading. And that's totally fine. We all have our own preferences, but I want to talk a little today about what I think cozy reading is, why I think it is important, and why I don't think that it is a trend that will or needs to go away anytime soon. At the end of the video, I'm going to share some of my favorite cozy reads and just cozy reading genres that you might not have thought about yet. If you are wanting to sort of make this coming season a relaxing, peaceful, restful, and cozy time for yourself. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is starting to get pretty cold. And so this is a time of year really when I just like to sort of huddle in, get my blankie and my warm drink and my plate of cookies and just sort of tune out everything and immerse myself in something that makes me feel peaceful. A lot of times that is a book, sometimes it is writing, and I think a lot of people also feel that way. So this idea of cozy reading being a trend, I don't agree with. I think cozy reads have been around a really long time. Cozy mysteries have been around as long as I can remember, but I think back on some of the classics that I've read, and many of them give you that cozy feeling, right? Sitting down and reading Little Women, just about everything in that book just is cozy. You can imagine a crackling fire, you can imagine candlelight at the table, you can imagine a warm home with yummy smells coming from the kitchen and a family that loves each other going through the day-to-day things of life. To me, that's a cozy read. But it doesn't always have to be, just cottages and flowers and buddies hopping across the yard. I think cozy is a term that is relative depending on who you are and what relaxes you, right? I have a friend who loves to read crime mysteries. That relaxes her. That would stress me out. So it really is relative depending on who we are and what we enjoy. But I don't think it's a genre that needs to go away. If anything, I think we need to be finding more ways to add coziness into our life. Our world is so busy. It's turned on and turned all the way up, right? We have arguments over politics, religion, concerns about the economy and the environment, even traffic stresses us out. There's war going on, and there's rumors of war and rumors of other scary and chaotic and negative things that could be happening in our world right now. We really need more things that help us to sort of tune out for a little bit, find some peace and rest, calm ourselves down, and think about the happy parts of this world, because there's a lot of good and happy to be found here. Now, I'm 44 years old. I was a 90s kid, so the term analog that has cropped up again and is being used all over the place kind of cracks me up. Someone talked the other day about writing a letter analog style. And I'm like, analog style? Basically, they're talking about writing it with a pen and on paper rather than sending an email or a text. I had to laugh, and it's my age, I understand. Not making fun of anyone. But reading a book analog style is reading the paper book as opposed to on your Kindle or whatever e-reader you use. And I've never even picked up a Kindle or an e-reader. I'm so old-fashioned. But I think finding that analog life, if we are going to use that term now, is super important. People are fearful. People are disconnected. Sometimes slowing down and going back to old ways is something that grounds us and helps us to sort of make connections with the people who came before us, the people that are older and wiser than us. I mean, think about how much more personal it is to receive a written letter in the mail as opposed to a text or an email. Finding something that makes us feel peace and calm, and maybe even something that kind of makes light of some of the real big issues of life. Now, obviously, we need to use discernment on what kinds of issues we sort of take lightheartedly. But I think the idea of coziness just gives us a place to chill when life gets hard. So I have been looking through this book, The Little Book of Hygge. It's Danish Secrets to Happy Living, and it's got all kinds of suggestions in here about just peaceful, chill out living. And I think that this whole idea and trend of hygge is really important, as well as peaceful, fun, cozy, and all the other things. So this book talks a lot about things you can do in your home to sort of make it a cozy and calm place, a peaceful place. But I want to talk a little bit about how I implemented some of these things during a really stressful time in my life and how cozy reading helps me get through this yucky period of my life. So a couple of years ago, in January of 2022, I lost my dad. Very unexpectedly, very quick. He contracted COVID, ended up getting pneumonia, and died in just a little over a week. He was young, he was just in his late 60s, very active, very healthy man. It was totally a shock. So that happened. And then about 6 weeks later, my son told me that he was going to propose to his girlfriend, which was a good thing. It was a wonderful thing. But then they got married about, 5 or 6 weeks later, and now I'm a mother-in-law, which was overwhelming, but a good thing. And then about 6 or 8 weeks later, they tell me that they are expecting a baby, which is wonderful, glorious, beautiful, happy, thrilling, miraculous news. But now I'm a half orphan, a mother-in-law, and a grandma, all within 10, 12 weeks. It was really overwhelming. I was feeling a major identity crisis along with the grief that I was going through after losing my dad. And I found that there was a lot of things that I just couldn't read during that time. And there was a lot of things that I couldn't write during that time. I felt like all the creativity in me just sort of disappeared or died with him. It's taken almost 2 years, actually, to get back to a place where I do feel that I can read whatever again, that I can write like I used to. But I can remember picking up story after story on my TBR that I was really excited about reading when I had bought it or when I had acquired it. But then now I couldn't even get into the story. I needed something that was lighthearted, that didn't make me really think too deeply, that didn't make me have to make choices and make decisions and make judgments, that I could just read, enjoy, close, and be done. The books that I thought were cozy reading really helped with that. Cozy reading just kind of helped me feel like I was keeping a part of myself alive when there's so many things that I couldn't do to just function in my normal way. Even trying to make a book review was difficult. I would go back and read some of the book reviews that I had written before all of these identity crises came along, and I would think, did I even write that? And I would just feel so depressed because I felt like I could never write like that again. But being able to write on something that was just kind of fluffy, write down my favorite quotes, and that was my book review or something like that, just made me feel a little bit of normal. Like, okay, I can get back into this, just not now. Because to be honest, for me, cozy reads don't have a whole lot of deep character development. They don't have a whole lot of shocking plot elements. For me, a cozy read is a gentle read. So not a lot of profanity, not a lot of like lovers and lover hopping going on. Gory stuff is out, horror is out. Doesn't mean I'm only reading about perfumed Victorians, but just something that makes me feel gentle and doesn't stir up too many negative emotions. So cozy creates a mood, and that mood might differ in some readers. Some readers might feel more comfortable in a, what I would think to be a depressing or scary sort of a book. That might be just the thing that makes you feel relaxed and calm. In fact, I do kind of relate to that because my favorite book in the whole world is Wuthering Heights, and it's the most depressing book that was ever written, in my opinion. Alright, so I want to show you some of my favorite cozy reads. I'm going to start with fiction reads. And I think the most obvious genre of cozy fiction is a lot of classic fiction, right? So we're reading Jane Austen, some Charles Dickens, the obvious ones. Things like The Secret Garden or Anne of Green Gables. This story, The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, this one is a cozy read in my opinion because it's got a pretty involved story, but it's just kind of calm and relaxed and just sort of flows well. It's got, kind of some light fantasy elements in it, and it's just a light-hearted story, and a good story. This one is called Man of Shadow and Mist by Michelle Griep. This can be found in inspirational fiction section. This author writes about different literary characters. So far I've only read her one on Frankenstein and her one on Dracula. This one's on Dracula. But she kind of makes like a scientific reason why these people are going through what society, deems as scary, horrible monster behavior. So that's kind of fun because you're going through this mystery, right? But it's not going to turn not gory or scary or whatever. It's just scientific. I really love Victorian fiction. So even things that are written in modern times but are about Victorian times. This one is Mrs. Tom Thumb by Melanie Benjamin. And she writes some really good stories, but this tells all about the woman who married Tom Thumb, how they traveled with Barnum's Circus, and just that whole story. I can't remember how much of it is fiction and how much of it is biographical, but it was a fun story. I like to read short stories when I'm in a cozy reading mood, and if you're not aware, I'm hosting Nathanuary in January. One of my favorite short story authors is Nathaniel Hawthorne. This whole anthology actually is just one of my favorite books ever. He writes about Puritan times and just kind of the religious hypocrisy that was going on, but it's all very atmospheric, like super atmospheric. You know, you've got guys walking through the forest late at night, and it's dark and it's scary, and there's graveyards and there's legends, and you know, the New England legends and all these sorts of things. Another atmospheric sort of read was The Miniaturist. This one's by Jessie Burton. This book is about a lot of things, but it's also about a dollhouse, and I just love that whole idea. Later found out from a friend that this book has some true elements in it and some historical elements in it. I love the story so much. I need to reread this. And then even just children's literature, this, you know, Alice in Wonderland, or Like I Showed You Before, Secret Garden, things that were technically and historically marketed to kids. They're calming, right? And they remind us of our childhood, and they're nostalgic, and that's cozy sometimes. And then Kate Morton. Anything by Kate Morton can be a cozy read in my opinion. She's a modern Gothic author, so everything is old houses, old ladies, young ladies, sometimes a love interest, usually books involved, and some kind of historical mystery. I really love Kate Morton's stories. But cozy reading does not have to be only fiction. I do have a few nonfiction here and just some ideas for you about branching out in the genre of cozy reading. So reading a biography on some of your favorite authors. This one is Lucy Worsley's Jane Austen at Home. And I have so many biographical books about Jane Austen, but apparently I can't get enough because I'm always excited when I find another one. Those things are cozy to me, especially since a lot of the places that they talk about are places that I've gone and visited myself a few times. And so I can kind of imagine myself there and remember, oh yeah, I saw her writing desk. Oh, I saw her bedroom. I walked through that manor house. I walked down that street. I really enjoy that, reminiscing about good times in my life through the writing of someone else writing about those same good times. Biographies of artists that you love. This is a book that I recently acquired about Tasha Tudor, who is one of my favorite artists. And this book has all kinds of photographs from, you know, from her home or of her, just talks about her life. And that's cozy to me because I really admire her. Something else that's cozy to me is reading about home life. So this book is called 1,000 Years Over a Hot Stove by Laura Chenoweth, and it is the history of cooking in America over 1,000 years, I guess. She says it tells the shared history of all American women through stories, recipes, over 100 images. We find Native women who pried nourishment from the wilderness, African American mothers who sold biscuits to buy their children's freedom, and immigrant wives who cooked old foods in new homes to provide comfort. From church bake sales to frozen dinners, this book is a celebration of women's lives, homes, and communities. And so the book, it tells stories, but then it also has recipes. And I just think this is such a cool idea. And it does make me feel homey and cozy, but it also inspires me to, you know, when I take a reading break, get up and actually do something in my home, like cook some of these recipes. This is like a quintessential cozy read in my opinion. And then finally, I just like to read about other cultures or time periods that I personally find to be something I'd want to go back and do, right? So Victorian Farm is an example of that. Whether or not I would actually survive the Victorian farm life is a completely different and irrelevant question. I think it would be fun for a little bit. But this idea, the ideas here are cozy, even if the implementation would not be so cozy and relaxing. So there you have it, friends. I think cozy reading is here to stay. I think it's important. I think it is essential in today's crazy, busy, chaotic, insane society. So I'm still going to promote cozy reading, but if it is a trend that you are done with and stresses you out, then by all means, move on. Let me know in the comments how you feel about cozy reading. What are some of your cozy reads that you love to pull out? What time of year do you pull them out? Let me know all your thoughts on this, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.